Hey, how's it going, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to a brand new episode of JJ's One Man Podcast. You're going to notice some things that are a little bit different. I'm actually making some tweaks here and there, not only with the channel, but some of the content, which I feel like, again, it's basic enough, but I wanted to add a little bit more flair to it, a little bit much more excitement, and some other things to hopefully make the viewing experience or the listening experience, because this is a podcast, a little bit better for all of you guys. Let me know what you think about all these little changes and little updates down below in the comments section. Give me your guys' opinions about all this stuff, as well as also don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. So today, man, let's finally talk about it, because I've been simmering on this for maybe about, what was it? It's been about a week now since this news came out, ever since, Comic-Con Online has really started and then news has been dropping all over the place. Let's talk about the return of G4. Now, many of you know, or some of you don't know, but many of you do know, who's been following me for years, know that I was a G4 guy. I actually watched a lot of G4TV, which used to be Tech TV back in the day. Then it got bought up, or at least, changed around and mixed up by the people that were running G4, and it became the network that we know it as, for years. I used to watch a lot of their programming. X-Play was a big proponent of that. X-Play I really followed. I was a huge fan of that, of Adam Sussler and Morgan Webb. Adam Sussler being one of my biggest inspirations to get into what I do now. Same thing with Judgment Day, Tommy Tallarico, and Victor Lucas, another one of those people that I followed and was like a student of the game of, for all their content. Again, another great show. Cheats, Icons, Arena, Cinematech, the list goes on. Those were my years, and that was my time with G4. I really love that network as far as that type of content. Now, obviously, things changed up when G4 went down. Obviously, Attack of the Show really was a really strong presence because of the ratings that show got, on and off. And it ended up changing the network for a variety of different reasons, for better or worse. But really, even though I wasn't really a big Attack of the Show guy, I was still a fan of G4. But now, ever since the network has been dead for like God knows how long, it's been gone for a while, now they're bringing it back. Okay, it was announced during the IGN live stream, or at least the IGN coverage, that G4TV, or G4 as it's known, it's not really on TV, I don't think it's going to be, but G4 is coming back in some capacity. And the two of the shows that are coming back are Attack of the Show and X-Play. X-Play is a big deal for me for obvious reasons that I just explained, and Attack of the Show is coming back, and that's cool. So what do I feel about this? Like, what is my overall opinions? If I'm being honest, I think it's great. I think it's pretty cool, because I think we need a spot, or we need a place like G4, even though we have YouTube, we have Twitch, we have a lot of other sources and places that we could get information about games and content that we can enjoy. But G4 had like this special spark back in the day, and it was this type of content that a lot of us really take for granted now these days. It was actually being delivered in that form on the network when it was happening back then. This was like the early days of YouTube. This was before Twitch, like when it was still, I would say even before Justin TV. Like there was a lot of different stuff that was like not around that we have now these days that we take for granted. But G4 really was that spot that everybody tuned into on television for games coverage or geek coverage and nerd culture and stuff like that, which you weren't really getting anywhere else. And while I know a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about the network, especially now these days, we really live in a politically charged and really kind of like opinionated social environment at the current moment, and that's totally fine. However, I really get a little bit annoyed, and I'm just a little confused at a lot of the hot takes I've been seeing about G4 coming back on social media. And this kind of like leads into my other part of my opinion. It's just like, I'm excited for G4 coming back. I think it could bring a lot of good, especially if handled right, and avoiding a lot of the BS that we got in the years leading up to G4's demise back in the day. If we could kind of like avoid some of those stuff and get some good people in the hosting gigs and people behind the camera making decisions, we could have a lot of great content that could still at least compete and at least be on par with what we've been seeing over the last couple of years since the network's been gone. I think the network's been gone for over 10 years. Now at this point, I give or take, again, I would have to look at a timeline for the exact dates, but there's been a lot of changes now in the environment when it comes to games coverage and just geek culture and nerd culture in general. But I feel like G4 still could have a place here. However, what I don't think is cool, and what I think is kind of a little bit silly, is that the entire network back then, or at least G4 as a brand as a whole, is being judged for the few things, or at least being looked down upon for the few things that really came out of one show, which was Attack of the Show. If people don't seem to realize that back in the day, a lot of the stupid stuff that people point to now these days as like being a problem or being misogynistic or being a lot of like really bad stuff, usually involving women, like the interpretation or like the presentation of women on, in geek culture and in gaming culture and stuff, really came from G4. I mean, Jessica Chobot licked a PSP, and I think it was Olivia Munn ate some hot dogs and all this other stuff and did all these like crazy things on Attack of the Show. The other like shows that were on the channel, like X-Play, Judgment Day, Cheat, Arena, Icons, Cinematech, all these other places didn't really get involved in any of that stuff. And the only reason why it continued, especially on Attack of the Show, was because of the ratings. And because people kept watching it. Granted, the audience that they were gearing towards was really a lot of males out there that were really into gaming culture. And granted, there were also females that were watching and stuff, but really was a male-oriented, male-focused channel. Kind of like in the same vein as like Esquire Network was afterwards, as well as also Spike TV. Spike TV, again, if you really want to talk about problems when it comes to misogyny and it comes to like the presentation of women, you got to go look at Spike TV because there was a lot of crazy stuff, which they were pretty much doing the exact same thing on G4 in some ways. Not to that extent though, but it was very, very similar. So a lot of people judge the network just based on that and saying like, oh, maybe it shouldn't come back, or maybe like they have to heavily like edit a lot of stuff and really change up all these shows. And I'm like, no, man. I feel like just a lot of people that say that stuff really didn't watch G4 back in the day. Admittedly, a lot of people who have been giving those hot takes have admitted that, have actually said that. And I get it. That's fine. You can feel whatever way you're going to feel, but don't just look at one part of the picture and then judge the entire picture and judge the whole thing just on that alone. You got to see it like all this other content, because if you talk about great females that were presented on the network, again, Morgan Webb from X-Play, but really the first female host or female like on-camera personality that I really learned a lot about, as far as like covering games, as far as like talking and discussing games in a critical way. And it really, even though she was silly and she did a lot of silly things here and there, it wasn't really where she was presented as a sex object, or at least presented with the male gaze in a way that a lot of people talk about now. The same thing also I could say for, I think it's Kristen Holt, who was on Cheat. It was the same thing, that all she did was talk about cheats and various tips and tricks for various games, which was great too. And I would even argue to an extent in some instances with Olivia Munn, but granted, Olivia Munn got involved with all the other crazy like shenanigans that was really like the driving force for that show, Attack of the Show, was it for the network, that drove ratings. That's why they kept doing it, because they kept working for people. But that wasn't my G4, man. That wasn't the G4 that I respected. That wasn't the G4 that I really came to know and really watch and follow. A lot of people say like, stuff that for like Attack of the Show should be brought back to the way it was with screensavers, on Tech TV. The only reason why that changed up is because, again, a lot of what they were doing back then just was working for the ratings. Now, I don't think a lot of that stuff would work in an environment now, so it should be avoided. But like I said, if you're really going to judge G4 and judge it and like, talk about it in a certain way, really just kind of like, look at all these other shows as opposed to just these few instances of like really bad stuff and then be like, oh, this whole network is terrible. Like this whole network needs to be changed. We have to focus solely just on diversity and like, all these other things like that, which I'm totally down for. I'm totally cool. Get some good voices in there. Get a lot of good diverse and like, voices, perspectives, and takes on various different things in this industry. But let's kind of temper our expectations and temper our actual gung-ho mentality with this stuff and make sure that things are handled right rather than just like, being reactionary to what came before. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense to anybody there, let me know in the comment section if you feel somewhat similar or at least have a different thing to add to that take. I know it's probably not the most popular take, but this is stuff that I've just been seeing on social media. And I'm like, you guys really didn't watch G4. Like, you guys really wasn't like actually following the network for a long time. Like, some of you claim to be, or at least some of you that have admitted not actually doing so. But like, then at that case, like, at least go and do your research. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. So anyway, I'm excited that G4 is coming back. I don't think it's going to be a television channel like a lot of people have expected it to be. I don't think it's going to be the G4 of old. It's definitely going to be radically different. I think there are going to be a lot of different things that maybe when they finally decide to launch the actual whatever it is, whether it's a channel, a website, a network, whatever the case. I know it's coming in 2021, at least part of the announcement that they've revealed with those two shows. I think there's other shows coming back too, but it's definitely not going to be what we've expected. And as far as the rose-tinted glasses with nostalgia, I think that, myself and many other people that are hoping for at least some sort of semblance of like that good element of G4, that's probably also going to change too we're never going to get the same type of thing that we got with X-Play from Adam Sussler and Morgan Webb. Because one, I think Adam Sussler's done. I think he's like, he doesn't want to do it anymore. I think he's put in his work for many years. Like, that man is good. He could just chill. And I can say the same thing about Morgan Webb. But also the same thing with some of those other shows. As much as I might want Judgment Day to come back, I don't know if Victor Lucas and Tommy Tallarico would be down for it. Even though I know Victor does a lot of stuff with EP right now, or Electric Playground Daily, for anybody that doesn't know. But yeah, there's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of like questions right now. Hopefully, as we get closer to whatever the launch date is for this thing that is G4 in 2020, 2021, we'll have some better answers. Anyway, that's just my opinions about everything. Like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this new style of the Takes for JJ's One Man podcast with the little additional details here and there. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. We're still on the road to 10K. We're still trying to haul our way over there. We're getting closer to 2K. We're like right there. So still got a long way to go, but it's the little victories that count. But anyway, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.